Thomas was done. The city was too much. Noise, crowds, stress. He needed out. He decided to escape to Stone Island, a place he'd heard whispers of. Remote, untamed, perfect. Thomas sold his apartment, his car, everything. He bought a one-way ticket on a rusty freighter. It was the only way to reach Stone Island. As the city lights faded, Thomas felt a weight lift. The journey was long. The sea was rough. Thomas didn't care. He spent his days on deck. He breathed the salty air. He watched the stars at night. He felt a sense of peace he hadn't felt in years. The city was washing away, replaced by something else, something real, something raw. The freighter groaned as it approached Stone Island. It was a forbidding sight. Rocky cliffs rose from the sea. A thick forest covered the interior. This was no tropical paradise. This was a place of wild beauty. This was a place to be tested. This was the place Thomas needed. The freighter captain dropped Thomas and his meager belongings on the rocky shore. "Good luck," he'd grunted. "You'll need it." Then the ship was gone. Thomas was alone. He looked around at his new world. The island was even more intimidating up close. The cliffs were steep. The forest was dense. Thomas's first challenge was finding shelter. The forest was dark and tangled. Thorns ripped at his clothes. He pushed through, desperate to find a safe place to sleep. He found a shallow cave partially hidden by vines. It wasn't much, but it would do for the night. The island was alive with sounds. The wind howled through the trees. Waves crashed against the rocks below. Strange birds called out in the darkness. Thomas built a small fire. He ate the last of the food he'd brought with him. He felt a flicker of fear. He was alone, truly alone. He had no idea what tomorrow would bring. The first days were the hardest. Hunger gnawed at Thomas's stomach. He knew he had to find food. He had brought a few basic supplies, a knife, a fishing line, a small pot, but he had no idea how to use them in this environment. He started by exploring the coastline. He learned to identify edible plants. He caught small fish in the shallows. He learned to read the island's signs, the way the birds flew, the direction of the wind, the changing tides. Nature was a harsh teacher, but Thomas was a determined student. He had to learn or he wouldn't survive. Every sunrise was a victory, every meal a triumph. He built a sturdier shelter from branches and leaves. He found a freshwater spring. He started to feel a connection to the island. It was a harsh mistress, but it provided for him. In return, he treated it with respect. One day, Thomas was out fishing when a storm rolled in. The sky turned black. Waves crashed over the rocks. He barely made it back to his cave before the full fury of the storm hit. He huddled inside, cold and wet. He was hungry. He hadn't caught any fish. His supplies were running low. He was starting to lose hope. But then, he remembered why he came to Stone Island, to escape the city, to find himself. He wasn't going to give up now. The storm raged for 3 days, 3 days of hunger, 3 days of doubt. But Thomas held on. When the storm finally broke, he emerged from his cave. He felt weak, but his spirit was strong. He knew he had to find food. He ventured deeper into the island's interior than he had before. He followed a trail of wild berries. It led him to a clearing. There he found a grove of fruit trees he had never seen before. The fruit was sweet and juicy. It was a feast. Section 5. Echoes of the Past. Facing Inner Demons. Life on Stone Island was not all struggle and hardship. There were moments of peace, moments of beauty, moments when Thomas felt truly connected to nature. He would sit by the ocean for hours watching the waves crash against the shore. He would listen to the wind whispering through the trees. He would watch the stars wheel across the night sky. But there were also moments when the silence was deafening. Moments when the loneliness was overwhelming. Moments when the memories of his old life came back to haunt him. He thought about his mistakes, his regrets, the people he had hurt. The city life had been a distraction. Here on Stone Island, there was nowhere to hide. He had to face his demons. He had to come to terms with his past. He spent hours talking to himself. Sometimes he yelled in anger. Sometimes he wept in despair. But slowly, gradually, he began to heal. The island was his therapist, the solitude his medicine. Section 6. Solitude's Embrace, Finding Peace in the Wild. As the weeks turned into months, Thomas began to change. He was no longer the same man who had stepped off the freighter all those months ago. The city had softened him, made him weak. Stone Island had hardened him, made him strong. He was leaner now, tougher. His hands were calloused, his skin was tanned and weathered. He had learned to live in harmony with nature, to take only what he needed, to give back whenever he could. He felt a sense of peace he had never known before. He was no longer afraid of being alone. In fact, he had come to cherish his solitude. It was in the silence that he found his voice. It was in the solitude that he found himself. He was no longer Thomas the businessman, Thomas the city dweller. He was simply Thomas, a man, alone but not lonely, free. Section 7. The Island's Rhythm a Day and the Life of a Hermit. A typical day for Thomas was unlike anything he could have imagined back in the city. He woke up with the sun, bathed in the cold, clear water of the spring, and ate a simple breakfast of fruit and fish. He spent his days exploring the island, tending to his traps and gathering food. He built a raft using logs and vines and used it to fish further out at sea. He learned to read the stars, navigating by their light. He marked the passing of time by the cycles of the moon. He had no need for clocks, calendars, or phones. As the sun began to set, he would build a fire on the beach, cook his dinner, and watch the stars appear. Sometimes he would play music on a flute he had carved from a piece of bamboo. The sound echoed across the water, carried by the wind. It was a simple life, a hard life, but it was his life. Section 8. A Sail on the Horizon, the Lure of the Familiar. One morning, Thomas saw something he hadn't seen in almost a year. A ship. It was a small sailboat bobbing in the distance. For a moment he felt a flicker of something he hadn't felt in a long time. Excitement. Could this be his chance to leave Stone Island? To return to civilization? The boat drew closer. He could see a figure on deck waving to him. Soon the boat had landed on the beach. The figure jumped out. It was a woman. She introduced herself as Sarah. She had heard rumors of a man living on Stone Island and had come to see if they were true. She was amazed by Thomas's story, his resilience, his resourcefulness. She offered him a place on her boat, a chance to return to the mainland, to civilization. For a moment, Thomas hesitated. He thought about hot showers, soft beds, the taste of real food, the company of other people. In Section 9, Homeward Bound, but not to the city. Thomas looked at Sarah. He saw the concern in her eyes. He knew she meant well, but he also knew that he couldn't go back, not now, not ever. He had found something on Stone Island that he had been searching for his entire life. Peace, purpose, himself. He couldn't just give that up, not for anything. He smiled at Sarah and shook his head. "Thank you," he said, "but this is my home now." Sarah was disappointed, but she understood. She could see that Thomas had found something special on Stone Island, something she didn't quite understand, but something she respected. She said goodbye to Thomas and set sail once more. As he watched her boat disappear over the horizon, Thomas felt a surge of contentment. He was exactly where he was supposed to be. He turned and walked back towards his island home, leaving no trace of his encounter on the sand. Stone Island awaited. His solitude was unbroken. His journey was far from over, but for now he was at peace.